Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful. When the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. The 28th. Excuse me, my mouth is still full of food. Wow. Yesterday, Monday, pretty okay day. Let's go to the charts right away. Had a little bit of upside. Didn't really go a whole. It was a really quiet day yesterday, but it was up. Now in the overnight, an extension and falling back down to about where we were yesterday. Now it gets more interesting when we start looking at some of the other assets. 10-year Treasury. 10-year Treasury had a huge dump at the end of the day. They were quite long. It is recovering, but that is so ugly. That is so ugly. In fact, we should look over here on this. You can see. Oh, it's so interesting. Well, they were doing pretty okay. They were actually somewhat bullish, and then the stock market took off, and when they did, the 10-years just failed hard. And I mean hard. Like, especially they're going into like the overnight session. It would pretty ugly. Anyways, back here. Now, well, oil's, kind of a V-shape reversal yesterday, back to where they were. But then the interesting stuff, gold. Oh my gosh. What the fuck, gold? Huge move up in the overnight, huge move up and collapse. Wow. Also, yeah. We can close this down and look at the currencies. Currency dollar index is recovering a little bit, but we're below 94 now. Whew, it's so bad. The dollar is just getting creamed. And come over here, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is up at 1100. They hit 10 yesterday, now they're at 11. So there's definitely some inflation fear trades going on here. But man, once again, gold gets creamed. What Bitcoin extremely bullish? Do you expect a Tether exodus? Well, not anytime soon, but I think that eventually it will come, right? So Tether will have to produce the documents. This is the thing. Tether will have to produce the documents at some point. It's just a question of how long they can delay it. And yeah, when it happens, I wouldn't want to be in. Don't know what else you can say. Let me start the Texas speech. I didn't really read. I'm just realizing my whole morning is just kind of a little mixed up. So I need to come in here and look at what happened overnight. Largely directionless European session. Senate Republicans released their stimulus. Schumer says that it's not a very good plan. Increasing numbers of COVID-19 cases in Germany are very worrying. According to RKA, possibly this could lead to a second wave, but doesn't know. It will. We've been telling you this for a long time. Today we got consumer confidence. Is that? No. Consumer confidence at 10 o'clock today. So let me read a few things here, and I will turn on the Texas speech for you guys. China reported 68 new cases. South Korea, 28 new cases. Tokyo, 270 new cases. Germany, 633. Smartphone sales in China fell 17% year over year. Sorry there, guys. We got disconnected. You know, it's funny. The connection from YouTube has not been entirely reliable, but I'm pretty certain that it's all on Facebook's side. You know what? Dollar looks in prime position for a turnaround Tuesday, maybe. Treasuries
Sunday Driver
remain
says,
flat
do you
after
Wi-Fi or
disappointing
have a direct
offerings.
plug-in Ethernet connection to your computer?
Oh, I have a direct plug-in. Of course I do. Are you kidding me, man? Would trade on a Wi-Fi? What do you take me for? I have Cat 6 cables. I got shielded, untwisted pair of cables. So when I'm reading through, it seems like the Forex guys are very much attached to a turnaround in the dollar. I don't know if the move that we're seeing in the dollar is really that significant. They were at 93.5 and now they're at 93.85. I don't know if that's like a huge deal. The treasuries are recovering here. They're at a spot though where I think there's a really good chance that they have to turn here. And I also think that the E-mini is in a place where they are really likely to have to turn. In fact, since we don't have news, I think I would just like to do that. I'm just basing this off largely off of positioning and not really I mean, I think that the news could be supported, but let's see here, Seth. I might have missed this in the article, but what would cause yields to spike? People come back from vacation, so they issue more bonds, or is there a preference for IG bonds causing a glut? Okay. So I got in on that. I think I might be having this issue with, getting double volume. I don't know if we actually had 10K trade there at 16F. I'm going to give it 4 ticks to run and Okay, so they got through me. I guess we'll find out how much momentum they really have. I just know that sellers in the E-mini look overextended. Well, seeing that big old order at 18 is not particularly encouraging. Thing is, we're still a decent amount above, or sorry, below where we were yesterday. By the way, it seems that a lot of this move down came into the auctions weren't very positive. Okay, so the 5-year down ticked.
Ilker ELMASTAS says, is this Jigsaw?
Most of what you're seeing is Jigsaw, yes. The chart in the lower right is a Ninja Trader chart. I do see McDonald's was down. That's probably a significant driver for the equities there. What else do we have today? Pfizer, Visa, Amgen, 3M, Starbucks, S&P, AMD. Oh man, there's so many. Raytheon. There's so many companies today. Yesterday was not really a big factor, but today it's definitely a factor. Okay. $30-year kind of coming back for me there. Mm. I find it so interesting when the liquidity is pulling in one because they're seeing something happening in the other. In this case, the 30-year was about to tick down to 24, and so the 10-year was preparing itself to do so as well, but it didn't do it. And there's an iceberg at 26 and a quarter in the 5. Some longs picking it up there. It would appear. After a lot of longs just dumped. Like, honestly, there was a lot of profit taking there. Okay, so there you can see that they traded it down and the other two didn't react that time. Well, the way that this turns out in the Treasury is going to be super interesting. Because they definitely looked like they had overextended. But who knows? Maybe they're going to try really hard to get into yesterday's range. Okay, so they couldn't get the sell to happen, so they're going to try the other way. $30-year in particular putting pressure on. Okay. There does appear to be some buyers there at 17, but so far it's not actually that significant. I guess the ZB is going to try it. They're trying to squeeze. I forgot that we also got we got all sorts of stuff this week. We got the Federal Reserve on Wednesday, which I totally spaced. And then GDP Thursday, and like the personal income numbers on Friday. Sorry, I haven't been too chatty today. I guess I need to eat a little bit more food. Maybe I'll be more chatty. So let me do that.
Lucas says morning.
Okay, so that was not a lot of volume back into 18. Oh, that's a little better. Well, E-mini continues its slow march up. That one we got right. The Treasury was a bit more of a gamble. Fine. I was checking to make sure it didn't give me a slippage. I would like to short it again, but I really can't in that situation, right? If it were to come back and do something like that, maybe we could take it. Anthony, when trading chart patterns, it is important to trade that pattern over and over again. How about just don't trade patterns? I don't know.
Uzi Knesset says ZB buyer inventory almost zero.
Right? I still think it's going to flip, but you can see, though, that the short end of the curve, in particular, the 5-year, is not really showing any signs of abating. They're squeezing it hard.
Uzi Knesset says I think so too, maybe a wee bit closer to 181.08.
However, another thing is that like that last tick up, when I was getting stopped out and everything, it was like only 800 traded back into it. I think I'm probably going to end up being right
Uzi
on this
Knesset
one.
says if it busts that hard, we're going into crazy mode lol.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're like right there, right? Let's reset it. Yeah, I'm forgetting something. I'll be right back. Donald Trump gonna have a press briefing tonight.
Roshan JC says, do you trade on Indian stock market?
Do not trade basically the S&P 500 futures and 10-year Treasury futures, and that's it. You think they could trend all day in the Treasury? I mean, there's kind of the spot from yesterday. I don't know. I'd be really surprised if they could come up to 21.5, I suppose, but see, they're starting to show a little bit of signs of weakness that they can't keep up the buy side liquidity. Zero hedges
Uzi
tweeting
Knesset
gold
says
bug
CB
shifting
could
to the
test
10-year.
yesterday's POC at 181.12 if it overextends. Roshan JC says, what are the indicators you use? Or do you use price action trading? I'm new into trading. Good vibes.
Hold on. Oh, it was just a squawk talking about Donald Trump's press conference. So I don't use any technical. So I have a lot of indicators on there. For instance, things about the level 2 and the cumulative delta, and things that allow me to see price on multiple time frames. But the primary reason for my executions is going to be news and positioning. So, for instance, over here in the E-mini, the market is down because of McDonald's earnings, but they've overextended a little bit. I can see that the sellers got stopped out, and they're kind of in a spot where we should expect to see some bounce. And there's a lot of company earnings, and the companies have been outperforming overall on almost everything except for margins. So I'm expecting, as more of this information comes out and we get closer to the open, that we are going to recover and move up. Meanwhile, over here in the Treasury, the big driver has been that the auctions from yesterday in the 2-year and 5-year were pretty poor, and that caused a really aggressive sell-off. Now they are pushing back into that area, but I believe that the fundamentals are such that they're saying that we can't maintain those prices in the short term. So I think that at some point we're going to bounce and come back down. But there might be something else going on here, because that gold drop in particular is, so I find it interesting that Zero Hedge is theorizing that the gold bugs are shifting over to the 10-year, which is like, makes zero sense, but I could just be dead wrong on the Treasury. They might really, really want to go. See, it's still going. In fact, the way that this is looking kind of suggests to me
Vincenzo
that
C says, hey, now.
the way that it's moving is suggesting to me maybe what's going on is the buyers took profits and, well, never mind. That maybe they feel like that they were poorly positioned, but Because from my calculations, there was a lot of selling into this, and that there's not a lot of buying inventory out there. So it could be the case that the buyers took their profits and it keeps going, and now they're chasing. We've clearly run into some sell-side liquidity here now, though. Okay, so there goes the E-mini.
Uzi Knesset says 181. 08 slightly smiling face.
Oh yeah, they did touch it. Herman Cain undergoing oxygen treatment in hospital after coronavirus diagnosis. Oy.
Uzi Knesset says trendline Magix lol.
I guess. Donald Trump complaining about Jerry Nadler. Well, it looks like that a major portion of the selling that we're seeing is from the E-mini moving up. We got HPI coming here. Case Shiller home price, rather. Looking for a reading of 4%. I'm okay holding into this news because they're positioned way too far above. Okay, so it was worse than expected. 3.7 versus 4. Nah, not much reaction. They are holding 19.5 though. They tried to click down and somebody immediately held it.
Uzi Knesset says apparently Kodak is trying to secure funding to produce COVID meds? Lol.
Oh, really? Which ones? Seeing some larger orders getting involved here in the E-mini. A lot of sellers at 20, but they took it pretty easily.
Uzi Knesset says I dunno specifics, buddy in equities just messaged me that.
That's interesting. Okay, well, 20 goes off again. This is really one of the most interesting and unconventional moves that we've seen in Treasuries in quite some time, isn't it? Okay. Okay. Really 165 and they're not going to sell that? That seems a little bit more normal. Like Oh, I was having a conversation in Discord and I thought that I was having that conversation with you guys and I was just about to go into it. One of the things that I've been finding really interesting from the survey that we've been doing is that people really don't like Elliott wave analysis. So out of the 40 or so people that have responded so far, we've only had 3 that say that they use Elliott wave analysis in their analysis. And a full 50% of people specifically say that they don't think that it works. Far more than almost anything else other than guessing. Actually, more people think that Elliott wave analysis doesn't work than think that guessing doesn't work. There's also 11 that say that fundamental analysis doesn't work. But when you get down into there, just about everything has 10. Doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't work, but that they don't factor it in. That 20 is looking better. That gives me a lot more confidence. Like, I'm really tempted to just sell it again if it went, but sure, why not? Somebody added moon cycles in there. That's funny. Okay, well, when we did that, though, from Reddit, we got a lot more responses from the equities and options guys. So. Still a lot of people that seem to be lying, though. Yeah, everybody says that they're being profitable, and I think that they are lying. Aha. Aha. Okay, cool. Wait a second. Okay, whatever. Well, we had a good tiny little up move in the E-mini, and now it's kind of died down, and we may just have to wait for the open for something to happen. We need to do better on the survey, though. We got about 38 responses, and I would like 1,000. I don't think we're going to get 1,000, are we? If you have any ideas of places where we can put it to try and get more responses, I'd appreciate it. I guess I haven't posted on Futures.io, but I don't know how to. I guess if I post something and I'm like, let's discuss the responses so far, we could see what people think. Oh, there's 1,000 at 181.04. Yeah, I feel like I've got to have something wrong in the way that my profits are calculated, Uzi. Because why is the shorts making the money right now?
Winston's mom says good morning,
Backwards?
speculator Seth, and hello to the smartest day traders I know. Today is a
Okay.
big news day and we have rain. I couldn't be more content. Seth, you look a bit sleepy.
Do I look a little sleepy? I don't know. I don't necessarily feel myself, but yesterday the day before I had trouble going to sleep. So, and then when I got off work, I took like an hour nap.
Uzi Knesset says according to inventory, buyers still picking up contracts up here.
Yeah. And then I had a hard time going to sleep again last night. So is it going to be the same? At the moment, though, I don't necessarily feel tired, but I don't feel like I don't really have the spring. I don't know. I just feel no particular reason, I guess, but it's just we just haven't gotten started today. That's all. But there's got to be there's something wrong with profits. Why is it that the buyers are making the money? Profits long. Profits. I don't understand.
Uzi Knesset says I think profits is backwards lol.
It seems backwards, right? Maybe it is backwards. I don't know. I mean, profits is essentially the matches when the volume matches up. So why is it that more short volume is matching up than long volume?
Uzi Knesset says welp, we could always just change the line colors LMAO.
Right? But it's... I mean, I'm pretty confident that that line is the line that I think it is. It's just that that line does not behave the way that we think it should be at all. We think that the side that's making more profits is the side that has the trend in their favor, and that has not been the case. Sometimes it's the case, but overall it has not been the case. How is that?
Winston's mom says I found a progressive channel host Tom Hartman, and he was reporting that white supremacists are infiltrating the BLM protests. That is an actual strategy and if true, is very concerning.
Wrong. I mean, I'm sure that that's happening, but that is going to be a very small, insignificant factor. The reality is that the BLM protests has a significant a number of Marxists in it that they are going
Uzi
out
Knesset
to.
says lol, that's an absurd misdirect.
Yeah, these people want to riot, and they've been rioting. Like, go and look at the people that are getting arrested. They're not white supremacists, right? They're anarchists, or look at the guy that got shot, right? He had a gun. He basically pulled it on a driver. He didn't shoot him, as from what I can tell, by he pulled it on a driver. Oh, good downtick. And he was dyed in the wool leftist. There's really no evidence that we've seen so far that says, I'm sure you'll be able to find like one person, but what evidence would you be able to provide that says that it's a significant factor?
Uzi Knesset says they're white, but they're not white supremacists. They're middle-class white LAR ping revolutionary communists.
But this is just comes into the cognitive dissonance part, right? So the BLM protests over the past week in particular are really starting to grate on the public.
RJ Wheel says why can't liberals just accept they have violent people on their side? Winston's mom says the problem I have with finding a story like that is it means I have to go see all sides. That means wading in some pretty ugly swampy video waters. I dislike propaganda and angry people.
No, see, it's not about saying all sides. It's about just looking at a specific situation in a specific group of people and saying, these guys are doing X. That's it. You could turn around and you could find the other people and find where they're doing other things, but not really pertinent, right? The thing that's going on right now is there are protests. There are protests that started with the Black Lives Matters thing. It kind of sputtered out. There were two places where it just kind of never died down, Portland and Seattle. And eventually they started to turn around and say, oh, well, the reason that the protest is going on in Seattle or Portland now is because of Donald Trump's stormtroopers, which is ridiculous. They were running around and causing chaos for almost 50 days now, long before the federal officers got involved. All right. So if we just look at these protests, and you look at the people that are causing the problems, the people that are getting arrested, they are anarchists, Marxists, and radical leftists. They are not white supremacists, coming in and trying to make the movement look bad. But this is where, again, it's the cognitive dissonance thing. The public is starting to say, hey, I don't like rioting in my city. I don't like people in cars being shot at. And so what is the liberal defense? Well, we never do anything bad. It must be those white supremacists infiltrating it's nonsense. There's zero evidence for that. Well, I shouldn't say zero, because I bet you that you're going to come up and you're going to find an instance where there were people in the crowd and they found somebody trying to incite. You'll find somebody dog birding. You'll find that at almost every protest. But again, you're talking about maybe there's one or two guys at a protest that are doing that sort of thing.
I2 Great says the guy with the act didn't shoot, it was someone else. But yeah, I get your point.
According to police, the guy with the AK didn't shoot.
RJ Wheels says, but Mom with Hartman, you are only getting one side.
Yeah.
He's as biased as Hannity or Ingram or Maddox. RJ Wheels says, I've heard liberals claim Russians are infiltrating too. Plenty Money says, okay, so what about the far right dressing as the police?
That hasn't happened.
Uzi Knesset says, if I'm carrying a gun and you walk up to my car window with an AK-47, I'm dicing you up. Winston's mom says, RJ Wheel, from the 1 or 2 videos I watched of him, I won't hang around long.
So this is another this one I think is just straight up a falsehood, and I think that the people that are spreading it or initially were spreading it around are messing with their own side. Basically, they have created a hallucination. So they're saying that because these federal agents are dressed in camo, how are you supposed to differentiate them as police versus some far-right militia group just coming around and abducting people? Well, I'll tell you why. Because their uniforms say police in huge block letters across their chest. Go look at the videos. They're very clearly police.
It says the people dressing as the police. I2
and they have orange badges.
Right, we have to admit. But at the end of the day, these are citizens protesting their own government. I think a lot of the people getting butthurt about Portland don't even live there.
Maybe.
Uzi Knesset says, here's a hint. The guys coming out of a federal courthouse are federal agents.
Right. So they're saying that you can't identify them as police because this is supposed to be some argument as to why this shouldn't be allowed. But they're very clearly marked as police, and you can't wear a uniform like that. You can't wear a uniform that says police on it. That's called impersonating a police officer, and it's a federal offense. And it doesn't really happen. It's extremely rare, because the penalties for doing so are so severe. Well, we were able to get one tick, but it's kind of
Plenty Money says that's why they were arrested.
Stubborn. Mm-hmm. I was watching the other day because these guys were complaining about it, and one of them was like, well, you like it seeing these people getting pulled into vans, you fascist. And I'm like, no, I'm not a fascist. That's ridiculous. But you know what? Yeah, I do like seeing the law enforced. I do like it when people are creating chaos in our cities and the police come in and enforce the law in the way that it was supposed to be enforced. Now, if somebody is violating constitutional rights, then go and sue the government. And if you have a case, you win. Because I wasn't there, I can't sit down and say that the police have followed the Constitution in every case ever. Of course, we know that that's not going to be true. But do I like seeing the law enforced? Yes, and we went back and forth about this whole thing. And if eventually the people that were arguing with me kind of gave in and they said, well, it doesn't matter anyways. The Constitution was written by racist people and is racist in its inception, and we should tear it down and replace it with something else. And I was like, okay, so now you're admitting basically the thing that all of the people on the right have been saying is that this is a rebellion, that they're trying to usurp the Constitution. And it's absolutely true. There is a large number of them out there. Because, I mean, these were just guys on my Facebook feed. I have like 4 or 5 of them that straight up, they just want to replace the Constitution with something else because the Constitution won't let them have socialism. That's really what it comes down to. So, I'm not going to sit down and say that every protester is a radical Marxist, but is this violence being driven by radical Marxists? Largely so, yes. Largely so, yes.
I2 Great says so. I just looked it up. Apparently it's only particular states where it is illegal for police to hide their badge. RJ Wheels says exactly. Uzi Knesset says I'll be goddamned if I'ma let you burn my house down for your bullshit revolution. Winston's mom says I remember a number of McDonald's back in the day, were having trouble with too many teens hanging out and partying in the parking lot, not me, lol. They began blasting classical music. Kids laughed.
What? That's
Plenty
funny.
Money says well what do you want the people on the right to do when we know exactly what needs to be done to help the underprivileged?
Well, yeah. And this is the bigger issue with the Black Lives Matters protests as I see it. Well, first of all, I don't like to associate myself with a movement per se. I prefer to keep myself as an individual person, but I will associate myself with specific ideas. I will partner with the movement for a particular cause, sure. But the cause that BLM is pushing is victimhood. And I just know for a fact that that doesn't help people. Think about it. Think about your own kids. What is going to happen your own kids if you spend your whole life telling them, oh, you're just a victim, let's just take care of things for you, baby. Like compassion is a good thing, sure. But compassion without any, differentiation, without looking at specific situations and saying, okay, in this instance, this person needs compassion. And in this instance, they need tough love. If you just babied your kids like that, do you think that they're going to become successful people in the future? They're not. There's no way. They're just going to become spoiled brats that think that the world is out to get them. And you know what happens when people think that the whole system is set up to suppress them? They rebel. They try and overthrow the government. This whole thing is a big long psyop to convince people to start a rebellion. So I'm not going to turn around. I can admit that overall Black people have not been very economically successful since after the segregation days. And there are things that we can do to fix that. But it won't be by telling them that they're a victim and that they need special things. No, it's by teaching people correct principles about how to be successful, the kinds of qualities and attributes that makes a person successful, the kinds of actions that makes a person successful, the kind of attitudes that makes a person successful. And they're not the thoughts, actions, beliefs, etc. that are being promulgated by the Black Lives Matters movement right now. That's maybe a little bit too far removed from trading. But maybe it's not. Because I think back, it's like, what are the things that would make a trader a successful trader? Well, I think one of them is logic. That seems to be one attribute of really good traders that I've seen, is that they're pretty logical people. Maybe though, the thing with this survey is I'm sitting down and I'm like, well, maybe we can go back and we can look at the majority of traders and what they do, and we can say, well, since the majority of traders don't make money, these are the things that you should not do. Maybe that's the way to go about it. So we'll see what they do. We shall see. Huh?
I2 Great says Oregon has a history of white supremacist militias, and that's what draws Antifa there, apparently.
Well, there's been this spat between the Antifa and the Proud Boys a lot, but I don't think that that's necessarily what's been driving them lately. The reality is that there's just a lot of radical leftists in Portland. Portland and Seattle in particular are like ground zero in the United States for radical communist, anarcho-communists, essentially.
RJ Wheels says one guy can't stand on a street corner and throw firecrackers or start fires in garbage bins. Why should 600 people?
Sunday Driver says let's just say this. You can't create government policies that will make short people tall. That goes for other differences between people as well.
Plenty Money says after slavery. Plenty Money says the banks that blacks owned had more money than the Federal Reserve. Plenty Money says then was bombed.
Yeah, I don't think that you should be giving people privileges or special kickbacks based on their race. I think that in particular that the government should be a meritocracy. That the government should be doing as little as possible to directly influence outcomes. If the government wants to,
Plenty Money says not to mention redlining and gerrymandering.
If the federal government wants to help a particular group, then you can, give money to, like the traditionally black, those sorts of things that Donald Trump is doing right now, right? Give universities that specialize in helping black people money. But you don't come around and say, well, we're going to give every black person $1,000 every month. That's not going to help. That'll make things a million times worse. Man, you get into that Black Lives Matter things. It's everybody
Sunday
wants
Driver
to say
says blacks
something.
are against discrimination. Unless it is for black people, then it's fine.
Yeah. Well, this whole thing in California that they basically want to get rid of the laws that prevent discrimination so that they can discriminate in favor of black people.
I2 Great says, did you know black people were not allowed legally in Oregon until 2001?
What?
Black exclusion laws in Oregon were established in 1850 and weren't repealed until 2001.
Wow. Well, I know there's lots of laws. In Missouri, it was legal to kill me. It was legal to kill Mormons for a long, long time. Anyways. Interesting discussion, but we should look at the indexes now because the E-mini is about to go live, and they're buying into the open so far. Treasuries still kind of holding that 19
Plenty
area.
Money says, why would it make it worse? Andy A says, not to get off topic, but is Jigsaw not capable of providing the charting you're utilizing in NJ?
So right now, at this moment, Jigsaw does not have any kind of charting, but most that they have is this this little chart that you see down here in the bottom center. Oh my, look at that. And that's their charting. Now, they have charting in beta. I think that they're going to release it to people in the next week or two. Hold on.
Winston's mom says, I don't have family who are on the far left. I am the most progressive moderate in a family of Republicans, and every day I expect to see a Karen, I know. And
Hold
most of them are in Florida. Hilarity ensues.
Okay, so the Federal Reserve is saying that it's going to extend its lending facilities. This is why the E-mini is moving off of this. They timed this just for the open. Ooh, clever. I think that we're going to go to 43 is where I want to take it off. So the E-mini had a strong open because of this. They totally timed that to pump the markets on the open, guys. I say that's a long. And we're already in it, so that's good.
Vlad Stolyarov says, I guess my short ISNT gonna work today. Vlad Stolyarov says, I was feeling a bit bearish.
Yeah, probably not. That's a really positive thing for markets. Federal Reserve was putting money into the markets and it was working and they're extending it. That's bullish. Now, that said, we had a really strong move off of it. It does look like they're kind of retracing a little bit of it. So. Sure that they'll wait for it to come back and maybe they'll try another push. Also note that the Treasuries are still fighting to hold the 19 area. Yeah, right? It came right as it hit over my news squawk.
Plenty Money says after 400 to 500, how are blacks discriminating against any other race when there is so much examples of all other races literally hating and holding down blacks, but now we can do the opposite to help. Vlad Stolyarov says not everyone reads news at 930 MAHHA.
Nope.
Winston's mom says 0831 CST. I should leave a comment on your upload noting what time the market opens. I am learning people really like having a timestamp and will watch more videos if this is included.
Yep, the timestamps are
Plenty
good.
Money says has anyone heard of Jim Crow? I2 Great says well whatever happens, I'll be hilarious cause Republicans are gonna be really mad when Biden starts using DHS to remove Republican protesters if he wins law.
Right, probably.
Plenty Money says even you can make laws to hurt blacks, then I only think it's right to put some laws in to help those people.
Nah, because here's the problem, Plenty Money. Those laws don't help people. You give somebody a handout that they didn't earn themselves, then the issue today with people, to be quite frank, hold on. More information about this Fed news. Just some details. So corporate credit facilities and stuff. These are really good for stocks. This country, to be quite frank, and I know that there will be examples of like, discrimination. But did you know that if you control for education, if you control for education, a married, educated black couple, good grief, hold on. A married, educated black couple, on average, makes more money than a married, educated white couple. Okay? The issue in this country is people's individual behavior. Okay? We have fostered a culture in the black community that keeps them from being successful. And the solution to that is to teach them how to be successful. If you just give them stuff, they will not learn how to be successful. You'll have maybe you would have a generation of people that are do okay, and then the behavior would continue and they would fall right back into their old ways. Just like the majority of people that win the lottery, they blow it all. That's what it would be. That's just that says nothing about a people. That is people in general, is that they tend to continue doing what they do, and certain behaviors prevent you from being successful. It's just the way it is. So not only that, but then you create resentment among everybody else. So you're actually fostering racism against black people by creating this situation. If we were to just sit down and say, we're a meritocracy, we always have been, and then we help the people to be successful within that meritocracy, that means that we don't give people positions just because they're black, but we do put extra effort into helping more kids to be successful enough to warrant having those positions. It makes sense? The sorts of things that people are like reparations, worst thing you could do for the black community, no joke. Worst thing you could do for the black community in the long run. There's so many comments here. I'm gonna have to pick and choose here. Anything political, doesn't matter what sides, gets more likes, dislikes on YouTube. Yeah. Well, the thing again with dislikes is that it prevents you from seeing that content as much in the future.
Uzi Knesset says the abdication of individual responsibility.
Hmm.
I2 Great says well, there's a program where they gave free money and housing to all the homeless in Utah, and apparently it worked and didn't even cost that much money. Not sure if give poor's dollar it'll just disappear.
I would question that it worked because there are more people sitting out there in that, the homeless area than ever before. The homeless in the state of Utah, or in Salt Lake City in particular, became such a significant issue that in the past 2 years they have had to create a new plan to basically move them all and split them out across the valley to multiple locations, because having them all in one area was creating a huge enforcement problem. It was turning into, a drug market and all of that sort of a thing. So I really, really questioned the idea that it was super successful. But, big but, you're also talking about people that are literally homeless. And if you're homeless, there's 3 reasons. 1, you're a drug addict. 2, you're crazy. Or 3, you're just really out on your luck. And you know what? For those people that are just really out on their luck, that kind of a program absolutely does help them, for sure. So, but that's a little bit different from people that are, maybe they're working, but they're in the ghetto. And then all of a sudden you come in and you give them $1 million. They're not going to spend it wisely. They're just not. I believe there's a button which will let you see comments too slow. I watch some channels where a content creator has to do this. Yeah. It's just that I don't have to do that. I just can turn off the reader and I can pick and choose to read which comments I want to look at. Well, that turned back down around really quickly in the E-mini. Probably because in the short term, the buyers got a little overextended. But I think on the longer time frame, there's still some guys up at 32.29 that will get stopped out and push us up to around 32.40. So I'm going to hold off. That said, the Treasuries did tick back up there. Think about the markets for a second. 95% of retail traders lose money. What would happen if the government came in and said, oh, we should start giving retail traders money to equalize the markets? Do you think that retail traders would do better? Or do you think that retail traders would just have more money to lose and that 95% of them would still be unprofitable? Because I fall in the latter category. I believe that if you just started giving retail traders more money, that they would continue to waste it. Because the majority of the things that retail traders are trading have absolutely no edge. They believe that it has edge. They might have done some back testing to have edge, but the reality is that there is no fundamental reason that the future has to perform the same way that it has in the past. And because of the competitive nature of the markets, the probability is that those people are going to lose money over the long run. The market is going to change its behavior in order to victimize those people. And it's going to take all their money. Only Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan bankers know how to trade properly by risk management. I don't know. You know what, to be honest, a lot of you guys know more about, short-term signals that might indicate that the market is going to move in a particular direction more than those guys at Goldman and JP Morgan does. Because the main things that Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are looking at is filling a client order and acquiring a certain amount of stock at the most efficient price possible and managing the amount of risk that the risk controller says that they're allowed to have on that particular execution. The way that they're trading is completely different because they're acquiring inventory for somebody else. I say that the only thing that truly has predictive powers is news that changes people's expectations of the future. Hearing that the Federal Reserve is extending one of its successful emergency lending programs is, to me, something that changes my expectations of the future for the positive. And that's why I want to continue to be long. Everything else. Now, if we got more retail traders to realize that and to trade people's changing expectations of the future rather than some technical signal that they believe gives them edge, but in reality, they are probably just being fooled by randomness, would that change the number of retail traders that are successful? Yeah. Maybe we could at least get to 80% of traders fail instead of 95% of traders fail. Huh? But you can't just give them money. And that's has nothing to do with what race they are. That's just the way people are.
Vlad Stolyarov says TD Ameritrade platform getting laggier every morning.
I bet.
Vlad Stolyarov says so much retail.
There is, yeah, and you can see it in the markets. I mean, I think it actually makes things a little bit easier.
Guido Sledden says been reading Taleb Seth.
No, but I should go and get that book. Because here's the thing is that most traders that I've spoken to that have a technical signal have a reason to believe that it works. They will say, "Oh, I've been making money on it," or "I've back tested it and it was profitable." But the majority of retail traders still lose. So I think in most cases, it's the case is that they're going to lose in the future, that it just hasn't happened yet and they haven't been trading it long enough. But so if that's true, then I start to go back and do my own back testing to confirm that. And I absolutely find that to be the case. So I will find a signal and it will run really, really well for like 6 months. And then after that, it just does terrible. And so the level of scrutiny that we put on a strategy to say that it is profitable is not nearly high enough, essentially. Does that make sense? So people are trading a lot of things that they believe is profitable, but they really haven't put that thing through enough scrutiny. There is not enough of a statistical edge in that strategy to prove that it's not just something that's random. And so the majority of retail traders really are trading things that are just frankly random. So the buyers are building their inventory back up again in the Treasury. Oh, you know, why do I have this over here? My water should be over here so that it doesn't block my screen. That's better. Okay. E-mini making another little push. Sunday Driver, why did my comment get deleted? I don't think it did get deleted. I just didn't read them all out. I want to be, so one of the things that I kind of felt like you guys were hinting at that I really didn't like was that you were making the hint that maybe certain races behave in a way that is not likely to make them successful because it's an inherent trait of their race. And I think that that's absolute nonsense. There aren't genetic markers for being a hard worker. I don't believe that. Quite frankly, a lot of the minorities that we see that have economic troubles are hard workers. Much harder workers than us. Well, they didn't get too far, but just have to give them time. I put that one on the wrong thing.
Sunday Driver says the world worships the false god of equality, and the world burns because of it. Sunday Driver says, and yes, my comment was deleted.
I don't know. Maybe you used a bad word or something.
Vlad says nothing too crazy happening today.
I don't know. I thought that open was pretty crazy, but it sure fizzled out quickly, didn't it? I mean, we're still solidly up, but
RJ Wheel says there are physical stereotypes. Why can't there be psychological ones?
Well, because there are physical stereotypes, and there certainly can be psychological ones as well. But the issue that you're running into is that the amount of diversity within any one race is so wide, so as to make any one of those physical stereotypes to be almost completely irrelevant. So I could come in and I could write a distribution histogram here of something, okay? And what we're kind of saying is that you're saying that it's like this, when really it's like this, right? For genetic differences within a race, particularly when it comes to things like intelligence. So to sit down and to say that one race has a tendency to act in a certain way is when you look at the distribution of it, it's really
Vlad Stolyarov says they still buying ZM. RJ Wheels says physical ones? Have you seen a 100-yard dash lately? Question mark. I2 Yanth Great says yeep.
Sunday Driver says I think Seth is saying that it's wrong to say that men are, on average, taller and stronger than women.
That's
because genetic differences are meaningless.
No, that's completely wrong. Come back and look at what I put. Do I have to come and draw this picture again? Man, this really is... Bears are trying hard. I don't know. Okay, this is the distribution of height. I will show you. Here is about 5'6".
Martin Holmstrom says, how long have you been using Jigsaw? Has it had a positive impact on your profitability?
Oh, yeah. I don't think I could trade without Jigsaw. But the thing that Jigsaw really gives you, and I kind of talked about this in the last video that I made, about trading fast markets, is that you can execute really well. Okay, where you click and all that, how you manage orders, it's the best. I'm mainly using news, right? For instance, I want to be long because of this news about the Federal Reserve. I don't know. If they stop me out, I guess they stop me out. Maybe it's just not my day. So it does seem like... I don't know. I'm not quite sure what it is that they're reacting to that is bearish, but... Anyways. Okay. 5'6", and here's like 5'4", and here is 5'11" and 6 foot. So for men, it's like this. Almost all guys are 5'9", 5'10". And for girls, it's like this. Okay, that's a distribution. That's a physical distribution, okay? The distribution of the trait of height between men and women it's a very strong, okay? double booby distribution. Okay. Now we're going to talk about how fast you can run. What is the distribution of how fast you can run? Well, it's probably something like this. Like, here is you're really slow, and here is like you're at the Olympics. And for black people, it's going to be like this. And for white people, it's going to be like this. Okay. So, yeah, you're going to see people at the top that know how to run, right? But overall, is it really a significant factor for the vast majority of the population that are black? No, it's not. So to sit down and say, oh, black people can run faster, they can jump high, it's kind of silly. And especially we're talking about intelligence. It's like you can go through and you can do an average and you can say, well, the average is that, black people have a lower intelligence quotient than most people. But again, you're looking at a distribution histogram that's mostly noise. So what the average is doesn't really tell you a whole lot. It's a misapplication of the statistics, essentially. Okay, well, I'm going to try this one again. All right. So it could be that the bearish case here is coming from Europe. Darn. Doesn't look like they're done. Yeah. Oh my. It's a hard sell. Hmm. You'll just have to wait because what I saw there didn't happen. So, hey, Mike, how's it going? And look, yeah, we busted out in ZB. What do you think? Do you think that traders are nervous about a second wave in Europe? Is that what's going on here? So the Federal Reserve comes and times an announcement right for the equities open and we're down? We're down?
Uzi Knesset says I think, emergency relief, programs will have the opposite effect. Maybe scaring more people than encouraging.
Maybe. I mean, we've seen that sort of a thing play out before, though, haven't we? Like, it'll scare people at first, but then eventually it'll bottom out and move up. And then people only want to buy it because of the emergency programs, you know? But maybe you're right. Maybe it's just too early, right? But the way that this is trading, I think that the bearishness has to be something else.
Uzi Knesset says, yo, you need to call up Peter Davies and tell him to FIC this whole, everything resets randomly throughout the day, in jigsaw bullshit.
Oh, yeah. I don't know
Winston's
what
mom says, through the force, things you will see. Other places. The future, the past. Old friends long gone.
I think that that's not necessarily jigsaw, but like your connection getting a temporary reset or something. Because that did not happen to me very
Winston's
often.
mom says,
Rhythmic,
Yoda can't type, but I can. Lol. Uzi Knesset says, do you have reset on new session, ticked in DOM settings?
I think I do, yeah. On these ones I do. Reset on new session. But I don't think that that's what causes it, because it does it randomly, and it doesn't do it every day. It's doing it because the connection gets reset. Because you just said you just had it, I didn't get that. Get it when the E-mini when the equity's open.
Mike Salisbury says, tested out DTN data feed last week, was really good. Kept up with volatile moves quite well. Don't think I would use a broker feed ever again after seeing that.
Here comes the Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index and consumer confidence is 92.6 less than expected. And Richmond Fed is 10, which is good.
Vlad Stolyarov says bearish stops 3,223 plus.
Well, I could see buyers recovering and going green now.
Gorilla Digits says, do you have a favorite news source? Vlad Stolyarov says, I am still neutral on this.
So I really, really like to read the Rance Squawk morning briefing. Excuse me.
Vlad Stolyarov says it's a 50-50 shot to short this crazy market.
I don't think it is. I think that in the end we'll look at it and it'll be really obvious which way it was going to go. Because then we'll know at that point which factors are the most important. Perhaps it's a company earnings. Perhaps it's I'm still on the bet that the Federal Reserve news is going to be mostly bullish, but we'll see. A lot of that is also just that the positioning just seems right.
Mike Salisbury says, which data feed are you using, Seth?
I'm using CQG right now. Okay, that's good. That's real good.
Vlad Stolyarov says JPM rallying.
That's interesting.
Vlad Stolyarov says only thing that makes sense if news are good.
Mm-hmm. Igor prices will fluctuate, he says in Discord. That's funny.
Vlad Stolyarov says 2 more points. Vlad Stolyarov says Bears will be covering soon.
Yeah, they haven't hard stopped the Bears, but yeah, you see it coming. I definitely see it coming.
Mike Salisbury says Orb worked well this morning. GCZB. Ever tested that strategy, Seth?
I'm not sure what you mean by orb. So I'm going to say probably no. The whole testing the strategy thing just becomes really. You can test so many different. I've done so many different strategies, and I'm usually not impressed with what I get.
Mike Salisbury says opening range breakout.
Actually, yes. So I've done a lot of. I specifically did strategies where if you set first hour of trading or the first hour of trading in the overnight session, and then you wait for it to break that level.
M. Brown says, please, what is the best stock and shares new channel in the world?
I'm not a stock and shares channel, so I don't know, Brown. Probably I don't know. Let me tell you something. One question at a time, Mike. The problem is that just because you've broken the overnight range doesn't mean that they have to continue to go further. So what you find with a strategy like that, and I've done a lot of different variations of I would not just opening range, but based on the overnight session and based on the previous day's session and things like that, is that what those levels show you have absolutely no impact on whether it continues to go. So that is a strategy that tends to have runs. So you'll have a time period where it works really, really well, and then you'll have a time period where it doesn't work very, very well. And usually by when it stops working very, very well, you give up on it and you forget about it. So you might be able to test that and find that over the long term, it has some positive expectancy, but the performance of it is very, very spotty. Mike says, yes, I agree. This is also what I noticed. Yeah. But that's just where I get into is like, for me, it's not enough just to show that it has an expectancy. You know, like we have to show that it has an expectancy over a really long period of time, and that it has to have enough expectancy to prove that it's not random. And then we should be able to come up with a theory as to why it works. So for me, one of the problems that I have with strategies like that is that they're based largely on the actions of other people. You know, it's like, well, people decided to buy it up past the opening range. They must know what they're doing, so I'm going to buy it up past the opening range too. And I have learned that you really can't consistently make money by by following the crowd, because you'll be late. You'd be late. So you have to get in before the crowd. You know, like if I was going to do an opening range breakout trade, I could sit down and I could say, oh yeah, if like they break the opening range, then they tend to go for a little bit more. I want to be in before it hits the opening range, right? I want to be in when I can see that there's positioning and there's news that tells me they're going to break that opening range and then they're going to move up. Makes sense? Okay, so that brings us to Mr. Brown's question. That is, what is the best stock and shares channel in the world? If I was trading stocks, I would not go to YouTube live streams for help to trade them. Why? Because stocks in general really turn into which stock should I get into today? And when you're going to live streams for that kind of assistance, basically you're following somebody else. So again, it's the same problem. You're going to be late. The guy, his edge is you. His edge is he has a bunch of people following him. So he gets into something, then everybody that is following him realizes that he's in. They all buy, and then he gets out as they're buying. No edge in that. So I wouldn't turn for YouTube for stock trading advice. Of course, you can get information about how to manage trades and statistical probability and all that sort of stuff, but it's not what most people are looking for, is it?
Mike Salisbury says this is so true.
Thank you. I think that's going to be our next video. Because to me, it's the greatest lie in retail trading that you should base your trading off of following other people. It's the biggest lie.
Mike Salisbury says I watch Warrior Trading for a 233K for $5 and this was exactly the case.
He would get in and then you would all try and follow it and he would make money and you wouldn't. Yeah, I've heard that so many times about the Warrior Trading. So many times I've heard that. Especially on the subreddit. Okay, cool. We got filled. So this was a case where I had the trade and I had to try it 3 times. I think that second trade, let's go back and look at where I got in on that second trade, because I think I know how I could have avoided that one. It was this one right here. And I got in it at exactly 753. Okay. Yeah. Actually, maybe it wasn't terrible, but that one was maybe just luck of the draw.
Mike Salisbury says whoops asterisk I meant for a week not 233K asterisk asterisk asterisk.
Yeah.
RJ Wheels says if you don't see the platform, the guru is useless.
Well, to be honest, even if you see the platform, there's a lot of little tricks that they can pull on you. You know, if you're not really paying attention, one of the things that I've seen a lot of YouTubers do, and I don't even think that they necessarily do this on purpose because I've made this mistake before, is you'll like size up, right? Like that time I lost on the first one. I took the second one with 2, and then I took the third one with 2. If the third one had failed, I would have just quit. But some of these guys, they'll just keep increasing it until they get this big winner. And then it's like, oh, I won. But it's actually like, no, the only reason that you made it out of that was because you kept increasing your size. Those are the sorts of games that they can play with you, right? Or they can be like me. I show you everything, but I intentionally make it so that you really can't do it on your own. That makes sense. Like, maybe I think I'm doing that and I don't do a very good job, but I'm sitting there and I'm saying like, okay, here's the piece of news that I'm trading on. Like, I'll tell you what the trade is, but I'm only telling you that because I don't think that you guys would figure that out on your own because you're not me. Right? So I don't want people to follow me. I want people to learn from watching me trade. I want people to be able to determine how they can make their own strategies. What are the sorts of things that actually have edge and don't? But I'm intentionally doing it in a way that I think that is adapted to me and isn't going to work for other people. Right? And then I guess if other people choose to follow me, hey, that's to my advantage, but I don't want that to be my edge. My edge is understanding the market really well. You think these treasuries are going to come back? Well, usually when they come this far away from the cost basis and they've just gone flat for a while, usually they do turn back down. But
Martin Holmstrom says size up when you lose is like always betting on black on roulette and double your bet every time you lose. It works, until
it doesn't, yeah. But these kinds of strategies are really effective at tricking you because you take losses very quickly. And so it doesn't really have the psychological impact on you. All you remember is all of the times that it worked. And you don't remember the time that it didn't work and you lost everything. At least until it's happened to you so many times that it kind of scars your psyche. There you go.
Gorilla Digits says it works until you run out of money.
Well, but let me ask you a question. Because isn't that the strategy that they tell isn't that buy and hold? You buy it, market goes down, you buy more. You just continue to put your money in. You continue to put your whole life savings in. And eventually,
Martin Holmstrom says yep.
In 30 years, you're going to have a time period where it goes up. And we sit down and we say that works. But I'm telling you guys, someday, maybe not our generation, someday it will stop working. Someday. There's going to be a generation where there's no growth. And they're going to put a ton of money into the stock market and they're not going to get anything out of it. It's an inevitability, frankly, because it is a strategy with an inherently negative expectancy, even though it's always worked, right? Kind of crazy to think about. I don't know. I think buy and hold investing is the way to do it, but just be careful. Like, I don't pay up for stocks that are, not worth as much. You're paying for such a high multiple. What you're asking for is for that stock to just go nowhere for years and years. Well, this one is starting to turn a little better, and it looks like they will go for those highs in the end. So what do you think, Uzi? The shorts still have a lot of inventory. You think that they're going to push it down? Or was the real trade long before we even got here and you just stay in it? Twitter punishes Trump Jr. for posting press conference by pro-hydrochloroquine doctors. That whole thing is insane, man. That tech companies are intentionally censoring people
Vlad
talking about
Stolyarov says Bull's got
hydrochloroquine.
control. Vlad Stolyarov says I am looking at UVXY, not pretty.
Donald Jr.'s account is limited for 12 hours. This is going to cause a stir. Because the whole thing has been, these doctors are saying that actually there is evidence that hydrochloroquine works, and we think that we're being unfairly censored by social media for the truth about scientific evidence. And then they make a press conference about it, and Donald Trump Jr. retweets the press conference, and he gets punished by Twitter for it.
RJ Wheels says India says it works.
Are you serious? That is crazy. If that's not the final thing that pushes average people over the edge to start saying, hey,
Vlad
you know
Stolyarov
what?
says hilarious.
Maybe these tech companies have a little bit too much power over who can say things and who can't. I don't know what will if that doesn't do it, man. That is just crazy. Think that it'll affect Twitter's stock, though?
Vlad Stolyarov says COVID misinformation policy. Athabon says which is more important, fundamental or technical?
Fundamental. I think you want to incorporate both of them, but your trades should have a fundamental thesis behind them. Even for short-term scalps, yes. Forex Live says, consumer confidence expectations. Which shape is this? Who cares? Past performance is not indicative of future events. Does this tell you something that like consumer confidence is going to go back down, or if I don't know. Does tell us though that consumer confidence in June was maybe a little bit too temporary and overly exuberant. Since this time it came back
RJ
down.
Wheels says false flags work a lot easier if you stop sleuths from posting facts that don't support state.
Sunday Driver says big tech senses like crazy. The world was more rational and sane before big tech. They are distorting acceptable areas of discussion and are creating public conclusions that make no sense.
In some cases, yes. I can't believe they would limit Donald Trump Jr.'s account over that. That is, Donald Trump is going to tweet it now. That's what's going to happen. You have to go and look at Twitter. I think the trade would be buy Facebook, sell Twitter, so that you're hedged. But man, I can't get over thinking now it is just absorbing my thoughts. I can't believe they did that. Doctors had a press conference to show the evidence in favor of hydrochloroquine as an effective treatment for COVID-19.
RJ Wheels says in his 2016 campaign he talked about history being rewritten Washington and Jefferson. Media scoffed. The
doctors complain about being censored on social media.
Vlad Stolyarov says casino win reversal day.
Oh, no, that's interesting. they say in the press conference they're being censored by social media. Donald Trump Jr. retweets it and gets censored by social media. Like, who is doing this stuff at Twitter? Man. Well, them treasuries want to just stay up. I don't know, man. So when I look at we've been looking at the market in the treasuries largely from a limit order perspective. And when I look at the limit orders, I think it'd be very, very difficult for them to hold these prices. But the market orders continue to come in, don't they? So if the treasuries get up to 32.40, will the treasuries still have a strong bid? I don't know. At the same time, this looks balanced, so it's kind of like they don't have to come back down, per se. Is Tesla up?
Vlad Stolyarov says TSLA beautiful.
Let's look at our VIX targets.
Vlad Stolyarov says short trap.
Let's pull it up. Hey, how it opens the window up over there. That's so lame.
Vlad Stolyarov says it kinda reversed from 50% of retrace yesterday and went only up.
See, when I loaded it, moves it down there. They're back to 1500. I thought that yesterday's move was a little dumb. I just don't see the fundamental reason to be all in on Tesla today, but well, I do see VIX is decreasing. That's interesting. Back below 25. They're squeezing them out long again. A big old order at 20.5.
Vlad Stolyarov says it's very difficult to trade and be bearish with no volatility, and of course everyone waiting for Wednesday 2 p.m. meeting to be over.
Yeah. I don't know if the market is all that concerned about what the Federal Reserve is gonna say, though. Like, really, what is gonna come out of that meeting? I don't think we're gonna get yield curve control.
Vlad Stolyarov says just want to see reaction.
Like, the shorts have just not come through today, have they? In the Treasury. I've just been dead wrong on this trade. It's okay because we're still kind of in experimental mode. We're still learning about this, but I'm just seeing a lot of things here that I really, really don't understand. Like, the shorts are loaded up. When I look in the treasuries, it looks like the shorts are loaded
Vlad
up.
Stolyarov says daily looks super bearish. Vlad Stolyarov says Boeing is interesting too. Vlad Stolyarov says to break down.
So I don't know how their cost basis is getting lower. Don't understand. Not just lower, but significantly so. I don't think that is bullish. I am seeing that the book is perhaps changing a little bit.
Uzi Knesset says I am noticing something interesting in ZB. Buyers are trying to liquidate their holdings up here. They are the seller. That's why it keeps pushing.
I suppose that could be. You're saying longs won out.
Winston's mom says Vlad Stolyarov I find Boeing interesting. Also, do you follow the defense contractors news reports?
Feeling that sleepiness coming in again.
Vlad Stolyarov says that Winston's mom only looked technically to break down that triangle. Vlad Stolyarov says daily. Uzi Knesset says the seller is flat. You'll know the market is reversing when the seller becomes the buyer on a move down.
When you mean like the seller will be moving down and the seller inventory will start decreasing, right? But I mean, that started to happen and then they had another move up.
Uzi Knesset says yes.
Yeah. We had that initial come off, move up to 08 or not. It was 08 and they pulled back and we started to see, I guess we didn't really see a whole lot of that in ZB. You did in the 10-year. Not across the curve. Okay. Fair enough.
Uzi Knesset says timing it is going to be annoying always, but I think a genuine move down will see sellers decreasing their positions.
I think so too.
Winston's mom says the Bermuda Triangle. Lol, I love those silly Saturday sci-fi disaster movies. Anything involving airplanes is always fun to watch. I worked with Raytheon and we had once had a defense contracting co.
The way that they reached up there for a new swing high. Not daily high, but a swing high. Very close to it. There you go. Some stops probably even. But look, the Treasury not too interested.
Martin Holmstrom says the difference between the three strength meters, is it just the time frame it's set for? Uzi Knesset says
No.
I think the issue we'll run into is that these dynamics won't always be consistent.
Yeah.
The conditions in which market makers act will vary from day to day. Vlad Stolyarov says I like Denzel Washington flight movie. Uzi Knesset says I think the key to forming a strategy around it will be determining that context beforehand.
Well, yeah, I think that what it tells you is
Wheel
the
says
positioning.
RJ Wheel says glad the crash scene is amazing.
Okay, hold up, guys. I think I think that the benefit of it is that it gives you an indication of how the market is positioned. It's very, very clear that the market went long and that sellers have been absorbing on it this whole way and that sellers are significantly short at the moment. Betting on some sort of a mean reversion trade. That seems to be what's going on in the Treasury. Does that mean that it has to come back? No. Means absolutely nothing about it. It has to come back. I think that it should come back because the demand on the short end of the curve is very poor. Getting some coronavirus numbers. So we still have to have a fundamental reason. Now, I think that the reason for it to go long is that they moved down too far yesterday, right? But now they've retraced that, so I don't know. I don't know what the case is for long. Maybe there is some things that are leading to demand over in here that we just don't know about. In the meantime, Treasuries went up there and made a new high, and now they're pushing the lower end of the range again. So the Emity is just being pretty random right now. McDonald's are really broke. Yeah. There's so many other companies doing earnings today, though, and McDonald's isn't going to be the story all day. Like we got AMD. Well, Treasuries ticked down. So the coronavirus numbers from Florida were a little better. 2.1 versus 70 average 2.6. Bond bears have got to be getting very nervous. They failed in their fight of the Fed. I don't think that that's what it was. The people on Twitter, the spam accounts on Twitter are really like, what the hell?
RJ Wheels says Vlad, I thought of what it takes to be a great trader with how cool Denzel was in that scene. Focused, disciplined.
Uptick in the Treasury again.
Vlad Stolyarov says same when doctor notices a car crash he don't panic.
You should stand up for a bit.
Vlad Stolyarov says if market chops I am going to go play StarCraft 1.
Yeah. Brood War is where it's at, man. I love watching the Brood War competitive scene. That's fun stuff. I don't think I'm all that great at the game, but it is fun to watch. Well, we've got a bunch of auctions later today in the Treasury. That is one thing. And it upticks again in the treasury. As the E-mini is kind of ticking up. What's with that? Can't explain.
Winston's mom says, there are 2 times in a man's life when he should not speculate, when he can't afford it, and when he can. Mark Twain. Uzi Knesset says free government money means I can always afford it LMAO.
There you go. Am I the only person that's a little apprehensive about getting another government stimulus check? Remember when everybody was all like, oh, this is so much money and it's $1 trillion. And now we're doing it again? What? Stock market's doing great. Like, seriously,
Winston's
all
mom
these people
says, if you owe the bank $100, that's your problem. If you owe the bank $100 million, that's the bank's problem. J. Paul Getty, I found a page of old-fashioned quotes.
I don't know. And the bonds bidding up like this is a little weird, too. I do see that the 6J is moving
Winston's
up. So
mom says, if you think nobody cares if you're alive, try missing a couple of car payments. Earl Wilson. Uzi Knesset says no, lol. We got $2,400 in Trumbucks, $2,500 in tax refunds, and another $2,400 in stimulus. Lol Kai.
Yeah, it's just crazy. A lot of clicking around the open there.
Vlad Stolyarov says Kanye West needs second PPP loan. Uzi Knesset says time to give it all to Mr. Broker lol.
Right.
Winston's mom says I have not received mine yet. My husband did and so did my son. Vlad Stolyarov says NQ wedge formation.
I'm looking at it and I'm like, the action in the 10-year treasury doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But then I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, why doesn't it
PRT1
make
says I
sense
got
to
out
me?
of market looking for a 10% pullback in December 2019 and we got a 30% another coming.
What is it about the action that I think is so wrong? You know? I think it should be going down. Why? Doesn't have to go down. But it seems so bizarre to me. It should be like, is it that I think that it should be range bound and it's not? It's trending up.
Uzi Knesset says this shit makes too much sense in ZB. Long holders are putting bids on the market that sellers ain't taking. Aggressive buyers are hitting into long holders' offers. I say hold tight. Salim L says NinjaTrader Gore false laggy data. Vlad Stolyarov says UVXY is dead so doing the chop. Vlad Stolyarov says then slight grind up till 11 a.m. maybe.
Well, you're basically saying
Salim L
that
says 300 milliseconds refresh rate.
well, we could go and
Winston's
look at
mom
that. I
says
don't
speculator
think that.
Seth has a survey that he would appreciate everyone taking. It's an easy short survey.
You didn't post the link? So most platforms have some sort of a built-in delay into how often it refreshes, but 300 milliseconds is not significant enough to make a difference when you're. I guess it's on the edge of it being significant enough. But I haven't seen. I've heard people say that kind of stuff before, and then can't find how it.
Vlad Stolyarov
Where
says
the proof is
AMD
for that.
rallying everyone bullish.
I can tell you this. I can put the two platforms next to each other and you can't tell. There's like 1 frame difference. Even when you do trading technologies. Even if I opened up the TT and just put them, I wouldn't have the live data on TT right now because I have a TT demo account, but it's going to give you delayed data now. But when they were on, we compared them and there wasn't a difference. And you could go back and look at that frame by frame and it wasn't a difference. See, those last 2 ticks down in the treasuries did seem like they happened like really easy, but then it was only 862 to trade 20 half, so and the E-mini has really just kind of been going nowhere during this counter trend period, I guess. Well, I take that back. I mean, there was that really strong move up. I don't know. It's been a really bizarre counter trend period too. But we're about to come out of it, and maybe then they'll make a stronger push. Maybe the timing's just not right yet.
Knesset says I see when the sellers do hit the bids, long contracts are increasing. Maybe buyer is committed to those higher prices to close out?
Maybe they have a specific target interest rate in mind for the bill auctions and the 7-year note auction that they're having later today. And that's why they're buying so many.
Knesset says okay, I'm annoying you.
No.
Shut up, lol.
You're not annoying me, Uzi. The funny thing is that the comments that you're making are the ones that I'm interested in, and I keep feeling like I'm getting pulled away from the thing that I want to know what, because it's kind of weird action. Well, it's not weird action. I've seen action like this before, but I've never seen action like this before with inventory, and the inventory is not acting the way that I think that it would in a situation like this. I would think that you would have a lot of buyers long and that the inventory would just remain consistent through the trend as you have solid rotation.
Salim L says I don't know, if you are trading for a few ticks. Ninja Trader is a slug. A slow slug. Dumbed down data.
If you say so, Salim, but I have not seen any evidence for that. And again, I will point to where we have opened up TT, Trading Technologies, and put the DOMs next to each other. And the difference in the data between the two of them, aside from the CQG data being significantly more filtered than the data that you get in Trading Technology, there's basically the same. So I don't know where you're getting that information from, but I would go and check it for yourself because four more Marlins test positive for COVID-19 as Florida suffers new single-day death record. Of course. But new cases is going down, so we don't care about deaths. Biggest POMO for next 2 weeks is Overfed monetizes 12.8 billion in U.S. Treasuries. Okay. Now even my local news is tweeting about Donald J.
Knesset says I don't find it difficult to make a few ticks on NT at all. It's getting the home runs that's hard, lol.
Yeah.
Salim L says okay.
I mean, if you want to get at the beginning of the queue, then yeah, it's going to be hard. But guess what? That's going to be hard with any retail trading platform because just the 50 milliseconds latency that you're going to have between you and the exchange is going to make a difference there. So, like, this is one of the interesting things about lag. Okay. Like, what kind of a monitor do you have? Right? Let's think about that. Okay. Let's pull out a calculator. Let's just say that you have a normal monitor. There's 1,000 milliseconds in a second.
Uzi Knesset says Q fights would be all but impossible in NT.
Refresh rate.
In that respect, Salim has a point.
60 hertz refresh rate. Okay, so there's 16 milliseconds alone just between when you see the change on the DOM and when your brain interprets it. Okay. And we're going to add on average 250 milliseconds to that for your reaction. And then we're going to add in the additional 16 milliseconds for your mouse, right? And then we're going to add the 50 milliseconds for it to get back to the exchange. Okay. Plus the 50 milliseconds that it took to get to you, right? I'm sure there's other things that we could add. By the time it gets to you, it's already half a second, you know? So if you're trading something,
Vlad Stolyarov says there's 1 second delay for sure.
Yeah. So if you're trading something where your ability...
Vlad Stolyarov says by time you want to execute.
Yeah. So I'm just saying if you want to sit down and say it's going to tick down, and when it ticks, the instant that it ticks down, I need to have my order in there within X hundred milliseconds. Let's say within 300 milliseconds after it ticks down, guess what? It's not going to happen. No matter what platform you use. It's not going to happen. So that's why I kind of question that. So, like, first of all, I know that Ninja Trader is not any slower than any other platform in that respect because we've tested it side by side. I really wish I had another TT demo account so we could show you. Or that I had saved the video where we did that. Uzi's my witness. Uzi's here every day. You remember that, right, Uzi? We held them up next to each other and we're like, well, maybe the TT one is like a frame faster.
Uzi Knesset says yep.
He remembers. So do you think that the E-mini is ever going to go anywhere? We're out of the counter trend period. It's still just kind of going nowhere. Mohammed LL Rain, this morning's drop in consumer sentiment from 98.3 to 92.6 reinforces the theme of leveling off of the economic recovery. The latest data also constitutes another unfavorable miss relative to consensus expectations, taking the data surprise index more negative. Okay, so question. Am I misinterpreting some things here? So let's think about the stuff that we've had. So we had
Salim L says true, but I am talking because I saw that bookmap type chart. And filtered data accumulates small inaccuracies. But what you are saying it true.
Yeah, well, the filtering that you're talking about happens on Rhythmic and CQG. So this is a thing where they're telling you something that is frankly a little bit deceptive and untrue. Because they'll come in and they'll say, our data is unfiltered and other guys filter their data. Bullshit. You both filter the data. You can go and you can look at it. They both filter it. I guarantee you. I've seen the unfiltered data. Your machine would not be able to handle it. That would be there's no way that CQG or Rhythmic could send all of that. If it was truly unfiltered. Okay. You just filter it a little bit less. And that's what they're trying to say. And what is the difference? Pretty insignificant. It was just like all of this stuff with cumulative delta. It's based largely on what the best bid and ask was at that time. So if your bid and ask feed is off from your matches feed by 10 milliseconds, can some orders get misclassified? Yeah, happens. Now, supposedly market by order data would fix that, but again, not a significant thing. And it's not really a significant part of the way that our strategy is working. It is curious, though. I kind of, when I see this action, and I think about the way the indicator works and everything, I'm sitting here like, do I have a bug? Something wrong? Problem in my theory about the way it should behave? Because can't explain what it's doing. One thing I will note is that in the 30-year, and really all of them, I'm not seeing the short inventory increase.
Uzi Knesset says now short inventory just ticked up in ZB.
Yeah, I saw it would ticked up just a teeny tiny bit. CES Las Vegas will be online only in 2021. Las Vegas is so screwed, guys. I'm surprised they're not down more than they are. Okay, so I'm getting news that congressional leaders are meeting with Mr. Mnuchin at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to discuss the bill.
Uzi Knesset says getting ready maybe? Lol putting a few more on before the fall. Tongue out.
I don't know. Well, maybe they're not going to take it off. Maybe they're hedging for the auction, though. That's the thing. I don't understand why they would buy it up that much for the auction. Maybe they think that the interest rate is just wrong. Could be. It's actually probably a good theory, isn't it? Except for that, it doesn't. If that was the case, then I would expect to see a lot of really big bid icebergs. And it seems to me that a lot of this move up has been the offers just not coming through and a lot of market buy orders coming in. So where is all of that market buy demand coming from? I don't think it's coming from the shorts. Don't think. Could be wrong. Wish we could see stops. And there's a good, decent move up there in the E-mini.
Uzi Knesset says yeah I see a lot of market buy orders coming through, pushing into offers and decreasing the buyer's inventory. I guess we'll know in 30 minutes or so lol.
Yeah. Well, because there's auctions at the bottom of the hour. And then it's probably the ones at 11 Eastern time that are, well, not 11 Eastern time, 1 Eastern time. The 2 and the 7 are probably the ones that would be making a move like that. Even he wants that high, though. has been choppy today, that's for sure. In the E-mini. Really choppy. Really strong open, really strong pullback, and now again, pretty strong push back to that high area, and then since then, a lot of chop. I think that fundamentals will eventually push them to new highs. They sure seem to be fighting it, though, don't they? President of Pfizer saying that we expect people to have continued vaccinations for a number of years to maintain herd immunity for COVID-19. Edge Clear tweets, a prudent speculator never argues with the tape markets are never wrong, opinions often are. No, markets often are wrong. I think Jesse Livermore had that one wrong. Markets are often wrong. It's just a question of how long will they be wrong for. That's the problem, isn't it? You can be right, but it might take days for the market to realize it. Oh, that's right. We have the Euro fix. So did you see how there when we ticked to 11 o'clock Eastern time that there was that all of these instruments kind of ticked all at once? And it is because there's something in the Euro they call the fix. So Forex thing that I don't know a whole lot about. Well, they came up there. That was a strong buy. They did not take the high again yet. China's Foreign Ministry Wang Yi, we are to make resolute response to the imperious U.S. tweets financial juice. I want to argue with Edge Clear about this, but I think it's pointless. I really don't like this quote that markets are never wrong. I know where it comes from Jesse Livermore, but hey, you know what? Jesse Livermore was a technical analysis trader and he died and he was broke. So he had some good advice, though. Well, they are finally coming back to that 19.5. Twitter's kind of gone quiet now.
Ace Trades says morning folks.
Oh, how are you, Ace? You're already done, huh? I'm still kind of waiting for my main thing to go. I mean, I could take it off here in the mini, but I would really like to see 3240.
Ace Trades says yup, took some early losses, but made up for it in gold. Gold seems to be better at picking a direction and staying with it. Emo.
No. So the reason why it seems like that right now, Ace, is because people are buying into it. It's always easier to buy something than to sell it. Because when you're selling it, you have all these people that already own it, and they're trying to preserve their profits, and they're fighting for the best exits, and you get a lot of chop and mess because of that. But when you're buying it, they just FOMO in. They're just like, market buy, whatever. I just want in it now, fast. And so when you get buying something, especially a FOMO move like gold is turning into, it just goes straight up. Now, maybe you made money on the short because the down move in gold was pretty ugly, but I'm betting by the time frame that you went long, huh? Something like 1920. The greater the deflationary concerns that policymakers must fight today, the greater the debt buildup and the higher the inflationary
Ace Trades
risk.
says short 3,221.50.
Sure, huh? Well, it is coming down.
Ace Trades says yes long on gold.
I'm going to wait it out. I do see, well, So I'm looking at the downside, and if things went really crazy, maybe 32.13.
Sunday Driver says gold is more than FOMO. The fundamentals are strong because US dollar is going to be decimated in the near future.
Most of these people that are buying into it now are FOMOing it, though. Because if that's really what you were trading it on, why didn't you buy it a month or 2 months ago, right? All these guys that are buying it today are retail traders that are just looking for the best trade. They're FOMOing in. Dave Portnoy tweets, would it have killed
Ace Trades says dollar? Decimated? Lol. How many times have we heard that?
Right. That's the funny thing about that one, is that the dollar is getting weaker, sure. But this whole theory that the United States is going to lose its supremacy as
PRT1 says
dominant
just watch tape
currency
for
in the
buyer type
world,
ungold.
is like, I think you've been reading too much Zero Hedge, you know? New York Post's now tweeting about Donald Trump Jr. being suspended by Twitter. We are below the open, by the way. So, Ace, I'm not sure why 32.21.50. Am I reading it wrong? 21? No. 25? Then they kind of mess with you a little bit on that one.
Sunday Driver says once the long-term move is obvious, more buyers will enter. Are there day traders? Yes. But inflation hedges are doing well. Even Goldman is now reporting that USD might lose reserve status.
The fundamental case for the U.S. losing its reserve status is, I think, really tenuous. So here's a couple of the issues. Number one, okay, so why is the dollar? What are the theories about this? And let's see if we can list them all out. Right. So one driver.
Ace Trades says it was a bad call. Going against me, about to get stoked out.
Why not 25? 32.25. Anyways, so what are some of the factors? Well, the big one, and the one that I care about the most, I think, is that we're starting a Cold War with China. So the United States is going to decouple from the dollar. The dollar is going to decouple from the yuan, right? That's going to have a significant impact on the future. I only got 942 in line. Oh well. Yeah, well, we're not anymore, but doesn't matter. I thought that's where you would have gotten in. Anyways, so let's do a parallel. Was the dollar under pressure in the 80s when we were having the Cold War? I don't recall anybody saying anything about that. Wouldn't a Cold War with the communist ally and the West decoupling from China make a better case for wanting to be in the dollar? Okay. Dollar versus the euro. Okay. The euro is maybe a better prime currency. Okay, so why the euro rather than the US dollar? Well, one theory is that the dollar they're printing a lot of money. Guess what? Europe is too. In fact, Europe has been printing way more money for way longer than the United States has. So why would you go over to the euro? That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. There is a coupling relationship between the dollar and the yuan. Yes, there is. The Chinese government pegs it to the dollar. There is a relationship enforced by the Chinese government. By the way, when the yuan increases, is quite damaging to a lot of their people. But
Sunday Driver says if there is a Cold War with China, then China will likely push to have their commodity transactions done outside the US dollar.
Yeah. And do you think that the whole world will just ally themselves with China and start trading with China and use the Chinese dollar as their primary currency? Or do you think that people will say, yeah, this stuff that the Chinese are doing is no good. We need to decouple as well? Because I'm betting that it would be the latter.
Sunday Driver says that isn't a relationship. That's a Chinese peg that undermines our manufacturing.
Well, okay. Maybe call it what you want. I'm just saying. I can't tell you. My whole adult life, I've had people tell me, so like you can watch it on Zero Hedge because Zero Hedge is really the ones that push this the most. Okay, don't get me wrong. I like to read Zero Hedge a lot because they post all of this stuff from the Wall Street analysts that I think is really critical information that a lot of retail traders don't get. But they have their biases, and one of the ones that they're always pushing is that they'll say, okay, here's what's happening with this foreign policy thing. We should be really concerned about the coming Cold War with China. Oh, by the way, you should buy gold. It's always down at the bottom. You know what where these articles come from? They come from institutions that are long gold and are writing stories to try and convince more people to buy it. Which it's like, if it's going to happen, why do you even need to bother telling anybody? Don't tell anybody. Just buy more. When I start seeing a narrative in markets is being pimped, that is, there are people specifically putting stories in media to try and convince more people in that trading thesis, that's always a warning sign. That's somebody trying to get you to follow them. It's pump and dump on a larger scale with the Gold Guild. Well, that's why I'm like, you know what? There's definitely some fundamentals in the short term that have been helping gold, but I don't know if I buy into the longer term thesis. Okay, so finally that break of the high. Thank you. We get my price now. Well, I was looking for like 3240 area to 45, but there is yesterday's high to contend with as well. Yesterday's high was around 32. Let's call it 32.35.
Sunday Driver says, I think countries that want to have commerce with China might be happy to conduct business outside the USD. Also, reserve banks around the world are buying gold.
Okay, which one?
Vlad Stolyarov says trying to exit this chop.
Okay, here's your list. US, China, Japan, Germany, India, UK, France, Italy, Brazil, Canada. Which of those countries do you think was going to align themselves more closely with China than the United States if there's a Cold War between the two of them? Will it be Canada? Come on. None of these countries want to have anything. All these people are being strong-armed by China. All these guys are all in the same position that the United States is. They're going to side with China. Are you kidding me? Fauci, I have not been misleading the American public under any circumstances. Well, that's a lie because you told us that masks don't work and they do. So you did lie. Credit China too crazy on surveillance. Yeah. Listen, the thing here isn't just that the United States and China are kind of starting a Cold War. The other thing is that everybody else in the world is coming to the same conclusion at the same time and wants to decouple themselves from China. I know what I mean? I think that the bull case for gold right now is that the US dollar is historically high and is way too high, especially with all this money printing. And so it's going to need to revert back to a more reasonable level. But it completely crashing seems a little too fantastical for me.
Ace Trades says I'm okay with a guy changing his mind based on more information.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about zero hedge, right?
Mike Salisbury says I hate the zero hedge bias. One of my friends is totally brainwashed from ZH.
You're right. Like, the problem is that, well, I don't know if it's intentional or not. So when I watch, we're talking about Fauci. Okay, maybe he did change his mind. Except for that, I don't think he did. I think that he knew he was lying. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he did. Maybe he did think masks. Actually, I think I do. I think we would have to say probably, based off of the way that he talked about it, that he really did believe that masks were useless and changed his mind. You're probably right. We'll give him that. No, like, so for zero hedge, a lot of the stories that I read are like, almost intentionally placed by China and Russia. So it seems to me that zero hedge's take is these are the ideas from different major players that you want to be aware of, and we're going to let you know about it. Because they are ultimately anti-monetary easing. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, what is zero hedge's saying? They're pro-gold and anti-Federal Reserve, which they're fundamentally wrong about. But then, in doing so, they provide really good market analysis. So zero hedge is like, hold on. So I think that for a trader, that zero hedge is a really good practice, right? Because it's like, if you read it, the information that you can get from reading zero hedge can be really, really useful to your trading, but a lot of the information that you read on zero hedge is total bullshit too. And so you have to practice at reading through the biases. Why was this story posted? What is it that they're trying to convince me of? You know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those things. You're never going to find like a virgin source, you know? They're always going to have a reason why they're posting what they are. And I think one of the key things, like just think about all of these different newspapers, okay? Why does the Wall Street Journal exist? Well, the Wall Street Journal exists originally to provide information about what's going on Wall Street. That's why it's the Wall Street Journal. Of course, they got bought out by this Republican, and that kind of changed that, and they've become more of a political creature over the years, but that's what they were founded for. What is the Huffington Post for? Why does the Huffington Post exist? The Huffington Post exists because Arianna Huffington wanted to make money primarily, but she wanted a liberally minded news source that was geared towards regular people, that was fun and quick and easy to read. So you have to read that into everything that the Huffington Post posts, right? It's going to be biased liberal, but it's also going to be overly simplistic. You have to read that into everything about, okay, The Hill. This is one of my favorite ones to read, The Hill. Why does The Hill exist? Well, The Hill, it's called The Hill because they're talking about Capitol Hill, right? So The Hill is there to inform us about what is happening on Washington and is intended to be a headline news sort of thing, as opposed to Politico, Politico is more intended to tell you about the inside deals on Washington, right? That's the difference between them. So whenever you read a story from one of those different places, you kind of have to consider what it is that the target audience of the newspaper is and who has relationships with that newspaper in order to interpret what is happening, right? I think that how to interpret news is a really complicated thing, and I don't 100% understand how I do it sometimes. So, but that is one thing that I think is really important. Okay.
PRT1 says, what do you think of Shelton going to Fed?
Yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about Shelton. I do know that there's some concern about whether or not they will actually pass it, but I think in the end they probably will. I shouldn't speculate because I don't think that I really know a whole lot about it. What I will say is that I do believe that there could be more diversity of thought within the Federal Reserve. I think that they're just a little bit too much of one perspective over there. I don't know if Shelton is the one. I really want Jamie Dimon, straight up. I think Jamie Dimon should be on the Federal Reserve Board. That's who I want there. I want a trader there, not an economist. Okay, so on the combine, because you're saying you passed the combine, hedging potential losses on reset gouging while making free money off of high win rate traders. No. Well, I mean, here's the question. When you blow out, how much money do they lose? When you lose your funded account? Because that's what often happens, right? Jamie Dimon should be in prison. Okay. I think he should be Federal Reserve president. Because like with the combines, why wouldn't you just, okay, you made the combine, trade enough to get like a withdraw, and then go start your own account. Why wouldn't you just want? I think that the goal would ultimately always be to want to get into your own account. They make 20% off of your profit, but what do they make off of your losses? Do they take the losses? Because the thing is that they start you out. This is why they start you out with such a small drawdown, right? The most that they can lose is $2,000 net on the whole thing, right? Because if you go down 2,000 or whatever it is for the combine that you're taking, there's a minimum drawdown, and if you bust that, then they're out, right? Yeah, they start you out with a super tight drawdown. Why? Because they're not actually putting their money at risk, right? They give it to you. You can go and trade something really reckless. If you make a ton of money, they take a certain percentage of it off the top. And then if you completely blow it, well, then you lost it because that was all profit that you potentially could have taken. But because of the minimum drawdown, they can't actually lose what their original investment was. Do you see? Do you see what do you smell what I'm stepping in? I guess my point is that they're absolutely willing to fund reckless traders that are trading with super high win rates but taking on excessive risk in order to do it. And the proof in the pudding is that a majority of funded traders eventually lose their accounts. True, but equity is for leveraging. Well, I was comment for my earlier part. I want to hear what you say about that last part that I said. If it was me, I mean, I could probably go and pass a combine again if it went back. I don't think that I'd be able to do it every month. I've definitely had periods of profitability that would pass a combine. And if I sized up, you would get it there, right? And then maybe I would scale back and I wouldn't trade very much. Would they be happy about that? I don't know. If I like completely reduce the risk after that, because I think the way that they trade it is like encourages you to be reckless. Man, I can't tell you how many people I've seen with combines and they've passed combines, and the way that they're doing it is they've got a stop that's like 10 times their profit. Oh, did we just run out of requests? Why isn't it reading that?
Mike Salisbury says I wish they put some information out on how many consistent traders they have who have been with them for years, versus how many are knocked out.
This is you're never gonna get that. Because it wouldn't look good if they showed you. See, I say, if you're really so confident in your trading ability, why wouldn't you put your own money on the line and just trade a micro contract? I'm not saying the prop houses are the holy grail. No. Hong, you're not saying anything wrong. I'm just trying to make a different point, is all. Because in my opinion, the prop houses are manipulative. And I think at this point, they have outlived their purpose and are now just a scourge preying on retail traders that don't know any better. And in particular, the thing that in particular bothers me is that they encourage traders to take on excessive risk. How many less traders would they have if they put this rule in? Your average winner must be larger than your average loser. How many less people do you think would get funded? I'll leave you with that question, because it's time for us to go. Well, we'll see if this ever percolates out. Well, let's just wait another minute, because there's something that here at the London close, and maybe we might get a clue about what's going on. My concern is that 150K, if it's legit, I guess, how do they get 150K to hand somebody? Well, yeah, so Ace, that number that they give you is bullshit, because they put a limit on the number of contracts that you trade, and the number of contracts that you can trade, the amount of margin that you would need for, like, I mean, when I was doing it was 4. So that's not 150K. That's not 150K in margin. So they say this 150K, but it's nonsense. They could literally just be giving you, it's going to be 4 contracts. So let's say that it's in the E-mini. $2,000 plus $2,000 for the drawdown, which is $2,000. So really, their maximum risk on this is like $4,000, $5,000, right? They're not risking $150,000 combine. Oh, the 150 is 5. Yeah, you're right. The one that I'm thinking about is the 50K combine, right? Where you can do 4 contracts. That's the other one, is like, if you're really sure about it, then why wouldn't you get funded with the biggest account that you could? And then, yeah, you get funded, reset it a couple times. I think we could do it. I just, like, honestly, I'll tell you how to do it. Just trade all 15 contracts that they let you trade. Go long in the E-mini. Don't set a stop. That's it. That's all you gotta do. Those are just marketing members. Yeah, that they are. You're right. Do you think that the Treasury is ever going to come back down to my number? I think that overall we're kind of getting back to my place where it might bounce. And I don't know if they're going to get to 17.5. In fact, if they come back across, they will go to 14.5. So, but the important thing is the drawdown is still higher than your investment. Yeah. I mean, I guess for you, it's minimum. You're not really taking on any risk. The thing that's bothering me now, I used to think that, if I can get a funded combine, then that would be proof that I'm a good trader. And what I've realized since then is that it doesn't really say anything about how good of a trader you are. In fact, it very often just means that you're a reckless trader. So because that's why I stopped trading them. Was I realized that in order for me to trade in the way that I thought was responsible, you would take you way too long to pass the combine. And I felt like it was more meaningful for me to put my own money at risk. You know? And so that's always my question to people is, it's $150. You can trade a micro contract with that. Why not just fund your own account? Okay, I'm blabbing now. I will see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to keep these on. So I will tell you in the video comments how it turned out. I'm being really stubborn with it though, aren't I? Haven't had this one in the treasury on the whole session. It's frustrating. Stay profitable, friends.